Sorry, Virendra.
Hi, Michael. Welcome.
Hi, sorry, Sarath. How are you? Sorry, can you put up the most recent presentation? I don't think this is the most recent one. The one I
Okay,
just sent you guys. Yeah.
Virender, can you do that?
Yeah, I will do that.
Superb. Thank you. Perfect. Just checking. You can hear me fine?
Yeah, your voice is clear.
Okay, superb. I just want to. Okay. Sorry, you still need to change the presentation, hey?
Just give me a moment.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll know when it's up because I know what to look for. Hello, everyone who's already joined.
Yeah.
And how many people are we expecting today?
So registration is like around 100 plus.
Very good.
So till now, like we got like 30 plus. So we have like 2 minutes to go, Michael, to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sanisa, welcome. MS, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharad.
There's a lot of echo.
So the results of like you have joined from 2 devices. That's why like the echo is coming. So Prasanna or anyone else is getting an echo?
I'm not hearing an echo.
No, I'm not getting echo as well, Sharath. I'm not getting echo.
No, not for me also.
Okay, thank you.
Well, from a single device.
But your name is showing 2 times.
I'll just check maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time and being here for this webinar. So let me introduce Michael and myself and 2 of my colleagues have attended Michael's CSAP training a few months back, and we enjoyed the way he shared his experience, the way he led that training, and we liked it very much. So then we contacted him to for this webinar and other trainings in India, and he graciously accepted our invitations and being here. So he is having more than 26 years experience in sustainability assurance, implementations, and training peoples and handholding assurers and report writers and consultants. And he is like one of the expert in this particular areas, particular sustainability assurance part. He has also started his company 16 years back, integrated reporting and assurance services. And his company is like one of the training service provider for AA1000. He has also written like many research papers and also by heart, like he is interested to contribute and make a difference. So like whenever you are going to hear him, he is like always forthcoming to support people, companies, and NGOs, whatever that way he can do. And he is like a very generous person. And also before starting his company, he has worked with KPMG and PwC. He has done more than 122 assurance engagements, which includes like more than 184 5-day site visits. He is also covered in more than 20 countries. He is having a international exposures. Like whenever that like we call and have a meeting with him, he is in different countries. Now also in next 4 weeks, he is going to be four different countries. I think today he is from Qatar, if I am right. And so I have like a very long list of his testimonials. Like it's a 4-page testimonial. I shared it to all of you through the mail. Like you can go through him. So before going further, I will thank once again Michael to taking this opportunity and being here and sharing this his experience. So we have scheduled it till 4 o'clock, and whenever he shares, feel free to ask questions at any point of time. There is no need to wait till the end. We don't have like any presentations. Like this presentation is like just for the first page, and also like we have like 3 or 4 more slides to share that we will share it in the end. So when I'm handing it over, that we will stop sharing this slide so you can see Michael and you can hear. And any point of time, feel free to interpret. You can unmute, like everyone is having access. You can at any point of time unmute. You can also type it in the chat box, and he will answer. It will be like a free-flowing conversation basis. So, Michael, the stage is like all yours.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't sure if that was a question. I didn't know if you wanted to, Virendra, whether you wanted to go through the slides.
Yeah,
So not now, Michael.
Sorry,
Okay,
we're getting
so-
somebody's microphone is on and we're being just that's better. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So
what I
Virendra,
will do is like, what I will do is like I will give like some slight slight introduction. So one, Michael, we can do that like presentation in the last part. You can start.
okay.
Yeah.
Or if you like, I can share the presentation from my side.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, perfect. Just go ahead and do this.
So Michael, Mr. Pramod Kulkarni wants to ask something. Yeah, please go ahead. Your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. My simple suggestion is so the admin should control all the video or audio itself, because while listening to the webinar, somebody by mistake may unmute and then the other voice is coming. So better, my request is if you have some fluent listening to this particular webinar, your admin please control the things. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will take care of that. Thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Kulkarni.
Perfect. So if I may just go ahead and share my page here. So welcome everybody. It's a real honor and a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to speak with you. And as Sarath was saying, we really would like this to be a discussion. So yes, I have a lot of talking that I can do. I have plenty of stories to tell. I have plenty of case studies to bring to your attention. But the main objective here is to hopefully be able to answer your questions, whatever you might have questions around the sustainability assurance. So just bear in mind that I have been doing this for 26 years. So until some point in time, so Sarath, you were going to say?
Yeah, your presentation is not visible, Michael. You are sharing something, but it's not visible.
Okay, it's sharing on my side. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Okay, I'll wait for you guys then to just go ahead and put the updated slides there. But I'll just talk through the slides anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. So as I say, I've been doing this for 26 years. So to the best of my knowledge, and I keep checking this because I don't want to sound arrogant, but I have literally been doing this longer than anybody else on the face of the planet. And I can say that with 100% confidence for two reasons. Number one is I developed something when I was doing my master's back in 1997, 1998. I developed something that I had termed reputation assurance. And as a result of developing that and implementing that in both Indonesia and Brazil, I was asked by PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, to join the firm when I moved to South Africa in 1999, and to bring with me this reputation assurance and implement it on behalf of PwC. And I'll tell you how I got to this. So for years, I volunteered for up to 4 months a year on development projects. So I grew up in Canada, but I grew up in Canada as poor, but poor Canada style. Like, you know, you leave Canada and you really start to understand what poor means when you get to Africa, you know, to South America, Central America, even countries in the Caribbean. And as I was working on these short-term projects, I was working in many cases with large non-governmental organizations, so charities, if you will. And in my experience, I found that the only jobs that were sustainable in this field that was emerging called sustainable development were the jobs themselves. And there was a huge amount of admin. One of the organizations I worked with was a company or an organization called World Vision. Some of you may know it. It's a faith-based organization started in Canada, and a fantastic organization, but massive overheads, to the point where in the mid to late 90s, they were being criticized because their head office was more stunning than the head office of Canada's largest private sector employer. And there were literally articles in the news about how this organization was spending so much money on its admin when people were donating, thinking that all of the money was going to the actual projects on the ground. And I had come across a case in Costa Rica where, while facilitating short-term development projects for Canadian students in Costa Rica in 1995, I found a company called Hanes, Hanes. It's a garment manufacturing company that focuses mostly on underwear, t-shirts, and the likes. And one day we were walking past, we were going from our projects in this area of Costa Rica called Cartago, but the town was called Paraíso, or Paradise. And there was this sound coming out of this factory that I didn't understand. It sounded like it was a party going on. So me being me, very inquisitive, I went to the front gate and I asked the security, like, what's going on? It sounds like you guys are having a party. And the security guy said, yeah, but let me just get the manager. And so the manager came to the front gate and we were talking. He said, look, this is what we do every second Thursday. We have a day shift and we have a night shift. And we need to keep our employees informed about things that we are doing, new product lines, new customers, whatever it is, we need to keep them informed. And so we stop the day shift 1 hour early and we start the evening shift 1 hour late, and we have a 2-hour session. And the first hour is what I would refer to as a toolbox talk, where we talk about, we talk to the employees about matters that they should be paying attention to, things regarding safety, whatever it is. And then the second hour, the company caters a bit of a social gathering. They put on music, people are chatting, they're dancing, they're doing all sorts of things. And I was like, wow, that just seems very progressive for a company. That sounds amazing. And he said, well, you know what? That's not all that we actually do. Because one of the things we talk about is the development of the community, the slum area, just down the road from us. He said, you know all the building that's going on there where these shacks are being demolished and these brick houses are being built? He said, that's us. He said, we had a problem. We found this problem where we were struggling to compete with the global market. So as a garment manufacturer, our clients can go ahead and they can purchase from anywhere in the world, India, China, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, wherever. And at the moment, we are not necessarily the cheapest provider of labor. And more so, the technology that's required to manufacture garments is increasing, and we need our employees to be able to use this new technology. But unfortunately, our employees have a relatively low education level. So very little literacy and numeracy amongst the workforce. And the manager said, look, we had three options. We could move our factory to San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. And we could just set up a factory there and employ people there and do our manufacturing there. And he said, we looked at that and it was going to be too expensive. The cost of property in San Jose is too high. The wages in an urban area are much more expensive than in a peri-urban or a rural area. He said, we can go ahead and do that, but it's just going to be very, very expensive. He said, option number two is we stay in Paraíso, which is a 2-hour drive outside of San Jose, and we just bring the workers to us. And so we bring workers with a higher level of education to us so they can transition to these newer machines. But the problem with that is they're going to want us to pay them higher wages. They're going to expect us to pay them what they could be earning in San Jose, and we can't afford that. He said the third option is we take the employees that we have and we give them the skills that they need. So they said, one of the things we identified is that in order for people to get a quality education, they need to have a safe environment in which to study. So a home with electricity, with proper sanitation, with plumbing, etc. And so we developed this slum area as you would a normal town. We developed a grid of streets and avenues, and on every street there were 12 plots. And so you have one side of the street with 12 plots and another side of the street with 12 plots. And so you get 24 potential homes on this one street, on this one block. And they said, what we agreed with our employees was that if 8 of the 12 plots, if the people who owned these 8 of 12 plots agreed to build these homes, number one, we would provide them interest-free loans to purchase the materials in order to build the houses, and we would provide them with technical assistance to help them build their homes as per the standard format that we have. In South Africa, we call this an RDP house, or a Reconstruction Development Program house. Roughly 48 square meters, 4 rooms with a bathroom, etc. And they said, if 8 of the 12 houses go ahead and they agree to this, we'll then put in the electricity lines. We'll put in the curbing should the government want to put in paving. We'll put in the sewage lines. We'll put in the water lines. We'll put in all the bulk infrastructure so they have access to the services that they need. And they said, and if 8 of 12 streets agree to this, then we'll actually build a school. So we'll build a school, 1 or 2 rooms big enough to be able to provide education at the primary and secondary level. But on the agreement that government will come in and they'll provide the teachers. We'll give them the access to the school that they need up until a certain time during the day. Let's just say it's 2 o'clock. And then we have 2 training shifts every day. We have from 2 till 4, 4 till 6. and we run our training with our employees, and we provide them basic numeracy and literacy skills. And I thought, wow, like this is just amazing. Like what a really nice thing to do. And the manager said, this isn't a nice thing to do. It's a must do. It's a strategic thing to do. In order for us to be able to compete globally, we must be investing in the socioeconomic development of the people in the communities in which we operate, particularly if we're expecting to get employees from the communities in which we operate. And I thought, wow, as a guy who wanted to be a missionary, I literally wanted to be a Christian missionary. I even did a Master's of Divinity and figured out that I was never going to be a missionary. I just absolutely not. I really suck at asking for help. And missionaries spend a lot of time asking for help. And I thought, you know, this is amazing. Like, I wonder what Canadian companies are doing in this area. And what I had decided was, you know what? I wanted to work for the Canadian government. We have the development agency, the Canadian International Development Agency, or CIDA. It's Canada's equivalent to USAID, except our Prime Minister didn't pull all the funding out of, you know, CIDA about a month or so ago. We still invest money in development projects. And so I wanted to work with CIDA, but what I really wanted to do was I wanted to be a liaison between CIDA, government and its deep pockets on development, and business, companies. Because I believe that there was a strategic imperative for Canadian companies to invest time and money in sustainable development in the emerging markets in which they operated. And so I thought, I'm going to do a Master's of Development. No. My Master's of Divinity, no. I need to do a Master's of Business, because what I needed to do was I needed to be able to speak the language of business on the subjects that I wanted to speak about, which was development. And so I went and did an MBA. And when I started my MBA, my very first day, I submitted my thesis statement for my research. And about 2 months into the program, we had a company, Nortel Networks, Canada's largest private sector employer. They made like switching gear for telephones, for cell phones, and, you know, office-based landlines. Largest private sector employer in Canada and the largest private sector investor in research and development. And the CFO had come to our school to try and attract students to come and work for them in their finance department. And I had zero interest in becoming a finance guy. Oh, sorry, someone's microphone is on. They're going to have to mute. So I had zero interest in becoming a finance guy. And so I let the guy do his presentation. I let my fellow students ask their questions, try and impress the guy so that he would give them a job. And at the very end, I asked my question. And this was the question. Nortel has a reputation of being a good corporate citizen in Canada. What are you doing to protect and or replicate that reputation in the emerging markets in which you operate? And to cut it short, the guy said, damn good question. I have no idea. He said, but I'll find out for you. 3 days later, I was sitting in a classroom and a call came through and they patched it over the speaker system. And it was the CEO of this company. So the CEO of the largest private sector employer in Canada, John Roth. And he said, Michael, damn good question. You know, as an executive team, we've talked about this question, and the answer is, we don't know. Turkey, China, Brazil, where do you want to go? Ultimately, I chose Brazil. I got put in contact with one of the VPs, and I chose to go to Brazil to look at Nortel Networks' operations in South America and what they were doing for their corporate social responsibility there. 2 weeks later, sitting in the very same classroom, another call comes in. And it was the CEO of Canada's largest mining company, Inco, the International Nickel Company of Canada. And the CEO says, look, Michael, I was in a meeting on Bay Street. Now, Bay Street is Canada's equivalent to Wall Street. So it's all the finance guys getting together, right? All talking the big money. And he said, and I was talking to John Roth, and he told me what you were going to be doing for them in Brazil. Is there any chance you can just swing by on your way to Brazil? Can you swing by Indonesia and go have a look at one of our mines in a rural part of Indonesia? To which my first point was, I didn't know that Indonesia was on the way from Canada to Brazil. Have you ever seen a map? And he said, don't worry. We'll pay for all of your costs. We'll do this, we'll do that. And I was like, absolutely. Spoke to the director of the MBA program. I said, look, in the second semester, so each semester is 14 weeks. In the second semester, I'm going to be out of the country for a total of 9 weeks. Is there any way I can do this? He said, yes. Great. Fast forward, and I'm now defending my thesis at the end of the year. And I'm presenting my thesis to three professors, and they try to fail me. So they weren't going to give me a D in the actual for the thesis, but they were going to give me a C plus, or sorry, a C minus. Sorry, a C minus. And a C minus for a thesis was insufficient in order to pass a master's course. You had to have a minimum of a C plus. And I was like, well, that's just all wrong. Like, how can you possibly say this? Because they said, well-researched, well-written, wrong faculty. You should be doing this in geography because there is no business case for corporate social responsibility. He said, there is no business case for sustainable development. And I was quite shocked. In the end, they had to give me a C plus, and I passed my MBA, I completed the MBA early, and Nortel came and asked me to do some projects for them back in Brazil. And basically, I was implementing programs to help them with their corporate social responsibility, taking care of environmental issues as well as social issues in the communities in which they operated. PricewaterhouseCoopers found out about this and asked me if I would join them in either New York or London. And I was like, sorry, guys, not interested. Really don't want to work for a big global firm like you guys. I want the flexibility to continue to what I'm doing right now. And my objective, remember, my objective was to work with the Canadian government, earning less than a third of what I would be paid by PricewaterhouseCoopers, so that I can link government with development projects. So with companies who are investing in development projects. And ultimately, I decided to move to South Africa. My partner at the time, my spouse, Karen, she was with Foreign Affairs. She got posted to Johannesburg. We decided to move to Johannesburg, and I took up a job with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I brought with me the output of my thesis, was this thing called reputation assurance. So basically, the auditing of a company's reputation. Because most companies will tell you, oh no, we've got a great reputation. And I say, prove it. Like, how are you going to go ahead and prove this? I started with PwC the 1st of August, 1999. And in September 1999, I was flown all the way back to Canada to go meet with a Canadian oil company, Talisman Energy. And Talisman Energy was having this massive problem with their share price. It had dropped quite significantly. And the only reason that they could explain the drop in their share price, and it was literally trading at about 85% less than what they believed the book value to be. So market value was way, way, way lower than their book value. And more importantly, their market value was way lower than their peers. Even the company's fundamentals were all there. They had great access to oil assets. They were producing oil. They were making a lot of money. They were continuing to grow. Everything said to you that this is a company worth investing in. But the share price had tanked. And it was because the Presbyterian churches of the United States was suing Talisman for operating in Sudan during a U.S. embargo. And the accusation was that they were committing, or they were contributing to human rights abuses in Sudan, being complicit with the government of Sudan in things like bombing raids in what is now South Sudan. And the company was like, this isn't true. Like, we aren't doing this. And so, again, cutting it short, I said to them, well, why didn't you guys produce a report, like a corporate citizenship report? And why didn't you base that on the Canadian Code of Conduct? So it's called the International Code of Conduct for Canadian businesses operating overseas. And what this Code of Conduct says is that if you are a Canadian company and you go to an emerging market, you must continue to operate as if you are in Canada. So you can't go to a Democratic Republic of Congo and then drop your standards for environmental protection or drop your standards for social development, for labor rights, for health and safety, for whatever. You have to maintain the same standards as if you're in Canada. And this code of conduct basically had 14 main principles. And so I said, why don't you write a report that basically asserts that you're meeting all of these 14 principles, and then we, as PricewaterhouseCoopers, will come in and will audit your assertions. So we'll test your assertions. So if you say that you're not contributing to bombing raids in South Sudan, we will figure out how we can prove or disprove that you are not contributing or participating in these bombing raids. And so that is what happened. Myself and a couple of colleagues from London, we went into Sudan. We were doing massive stakeholder engagement. We were interrogating all of the assertions that the company was making. I was not just checking with airfields about logs of when planes were taking off and landing, but more importantly, pilots, because no pilot in the world who is working in Sudan is going to not report the flights that they take, because the goal of going to Sudan is to build up as much experience so you can come back to Canada and work for one of these global airlines. And we were able to prove that the company was actually adhering to these 14 principles. And so the company put out into the public domain their very first corporate citizenship report. And it was assured by PricewaterhouseCoopers. That report was issued in 2000, and Talisman got huge kudos, huge praise for producing that report. And KPMG got massive backlash. And essentially the backlash was, how can these accountants in their fancy suits sitting in these ivory towers in London write an assurance statement for stuff that's happening in Sudan? To which our response was, did you not read the assurance statement? Because the assurance statement clearly stated we were in Sudan. We engaged with people. We went into the field. We did all of these things. And we were able to determine that, yes, all of the assertions they were making relative to these 14 elements were fair and factual. And that was how we developed sustainability assurance. And so the team that I operated with in the UK, they're no longer with sustainability assurance. They moved off, they did whatever. I continued to work for PwC for another 3 years. I worked for them for 4 years in total. And then I was asked to join KPMG, and I worked for KPMG for 3 years. And I had a problem. And the problem was this. As we were developing this, what became sustainability assurance, we were writing assurance statements that were written the very same way that financial audit statements would be made or be written. And these statements are written in a way to protect the financial auditors. And so they're written in what's referred to as a double negative. So nothing has come to our attention to lead us to believe that the information is not correct. Which in essence, I can write this statement if I go to your company, I take a chair and I put it out in front of your company, and for 2 weeks, whatever, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, if I sit there in that chair and nobody comes to me to tell me that there's a problem with this information, then I can fairly state that nothing has come to my attention to lead me to believe that the information is not correct. Which is not what people expected. The users of sustainability reports wanted a statement that said, based on the work that we performed, we believe that the information presented within this report is fair and factual. At the time, though, I was hamstrung by the fact that there was only one form of assurance for sustainability, and it's what we call ISAE 3000, audits other than financial information. And accountancy firms use this standard, and they're expected to use this standard, and they all have to write the same thing. Nothing has come to our attention to lead us to believe that the information is not correct. And so luckily, in 2009, accountability came along with the AA1000 AS, the AA1000 Assurance Standard, to which I quickly adopted. And I was so committed to this that I actually became accountability's first training provider. So outside of accountability, I was the first person to provide training, and I was the sole provider in Africa. And I started to train other sustainability assurance practitioners, including people from accounting firms, including people from engineering firms, including people from ISO verification firms. People were coming in and they were learning how to conduct assurance based on the experience that myself and other colleagues had developed in going into companies, and particularly at the time, mining companies. So in fact, energy and natural resource companies, so oil and gas companies. Some of our early clients were the likes of Anglo American, one of the world's largest mining companies, BHP Billiton, Shell, BP. We were going in and we were testing their information so that if they said that we are committed to the health and safety of our employees, we expect them to take that assertion and prove it with evidence, to report things like the lost time injury frequency rate, and to make sure that when they report, so if it's Anglo-American and they report a lost time injury frequency rate, that when BHP Billiton reports a lost time injury frequency rate, they mean the same thing. So definitions started to develop for things like, how do you calculate a lost time injury frequency rate? Well, for those of you who don't know this, a lost time injury is any injury that happens on duty that is severe enough to lead to the person not being able to return to work the next day, regardless of whether they were meant to work that day or not, and including restricted work cases, where if they come back the next day, but they're unable to do their normal duties, there's still a lost time injury because they cannot go back and do the work they were hired to do. And we take those injuries, the number of injuries, and we divide by 200,000 person hours worked. Originally, injury frequency rates were calculated based on per million person hours worked. But that was simply because these calculations were done with pen and paper. And dividing a total number of person hours by 1 million is just shifting the number by 6 digits. Just get rid of the first 6 digits. And so if you had 10 million man hours, you divided by 10. 2,000 hours, though, was adopted for most industries and most companies as the standard because globally, the average person works 50 weeks a year, gets 2 weeks of leave. The average person works 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. You multiply 40 hours a week by 50 weeks, and the number is 2,000. And so per 200,000 person hours worked means per 100 people. And so when you see a lost time injury frequency rate of, let's just say, 0.10, it means that 0.1 out of every 100 people got injured to the point of losing at least one potential shift. And so the role of the assurance provider is to make sure that when the company puts this number in the public domain, that we confirm that the data is correct. We don't only confirm that the calculation was done consistently with everybody else, but we have to prove that the source data is correct. So we have to make sure that when they say it's a lost time injury, it's actually a lost time injury. So we look at the hierarchy of injuries on duty. First aid case, medical treatment case, lost time injury, fatality. And we first have to confirm whether the number of lost time injuries is actually the number of lost time injuries. And then we have to go and get all the person hours worked, which in today's day, it still amazes me that we struggle with getting person hours worked out of companies, and not just African companies, but Canadian companies. So some of my clients are British oil companies listed on the LSE. Some of them are Canadian mining companies listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And these companies still struggle with getting the number of person hours worked right, particularly when it comes to contractors. Because one of the other things that the assurance provider needs to do is to make sure that the information is complete. Because as a company, you can outsource many things, but the one thing you cannot outsource is your reputation. And so you cannot take the most dangerous parts of your business, carve them off, develop a new company, hire that company as a contractor, and let them do the most dangerous work, and then not report any fatalities or any lost time injuries that occur. And this was tried by companies, including Anglo American, and they got shut down by their shareholders. Because the shareholders noticed this massive drop in fatalities and this massive improvement in fatal injury frequency rate. And when they inquired about it, they found out that this is exactly what was happening. So the number of fatalities wasn't actually decreasing. It's just that Anglo American was taking responsibility for far fewer of those fatalities than they were previously. And so as an assurance provider, we're expected to test 4 things: the accuracy, consistency, completeness, and reliability of the data. And so you go into a company, and before you actually get to them, you ask them for a spreadsheet with all of their baseline data. And essentially this means if you were to write your sustainability report today, and you were to put the numbers into that report, let me look at those numbers so I can test to see whether those numbers are correct or not. I then go back to the source data to see whether I can actually see the math and see that yes or no, the baseline data or the data on site at source equals the data that the company is going to be reporting to their stakeholders. So this is accuracy. Consistency is this whole thing about definitions. When you talk about lost time injuries, are you talking about the same sort of injuries as everybody else? Or are you excluding things like restricted work cases. We look at accuracy, consistency, completeness. The completeness is things like, are you including your contractors? But completeness can also be something like electricity consumption. If you own a big factory and some of the space in the factory you don't actually use for your own activities, but you then rent it off to another company that needs the space. And when you rent it to them, you say it's going to cost you X million rupees per day or per year, whatever, which includes your water and your electricity. Well, if you report that company's electricity, you are over-reporting your electricity. And so the completeness of your data is incorrect because you're forgetting to subtract what we refer to as a concessionaire or a tenant's electricity. On the flip side, you could only be reporting for your main factory, but not all your distribution centers. There might be other things that you're not including. So we do accuracy, consistency, completeness, and reliability. And reliability is really where I learned a lot from working for an accounting firm. Because this is what you're testing here is whether the data was correct by dumb luck or whether it was correct because they have the proper policies, procedures, systems, and controls in place to result in the data being accurate. So in today's sustainability, when you go out, you have the option of a couple of different types of assurance. Number one, you could look at ISA E3000, which is still basically the same as it was 20 years ago. And it's the accounting approach. And you have to write an assurance statement that protects you, not really informs your sustainability or the stakeholders of the company, so the users of the report. Or you can use accountability standard, which has two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 asks you to test adherence to 4 principles: inclusivity, materiality, responsiveness, and impact. And these 4 principles are clearly defined as inclusivity is, are you actually engaging with your stakeholders to determine what they need from you, what they expect from you? So do they expect you to be a safe workplace? Do they expect you not to let your employees get killed or injured on duty? You then must check your materiality. Part of the use of the engagement or the stakeholder engagement is to identify what are the issues that you must be monitoring, managing within your company, and then reporting on to your stakeholders on no less than an annual basis. So it's the most important stakeholders, the most important issues: inclusivity, materiality. Responsiveness is when your stakeholders are asking you for information or telling you that they want you to do something specific, you have to be constantly going back to them and giving them information, the feedback on what they've asked for. And so at the bare minimum, you should have an annual sustainability report, but that's not always sufficient. In fact, it's almost never sufficient. You need to engage them more than that. You need to report back to them more than that. So we have inclusivity, materiality, responsiveness, and the big one, which is the so what of sustainability. It's impact. So impact is if you say that you are a company that protects the health and safety of its employees, you must show that you have policies, procedures, systems, and controls in place. And then you must show that these policies, procedures, systems, and controls are decreasing the number of injuries. They're improving your injury frequency rates. So if anybody's ever done ISO 14001 or OSHAS, etc., you'll know that when you're providing verification, what you're providing verification for is, do you have the right, policies in place? Do you have the right systems in place? Are you actually training the people, etc.? But the massive shortcoming in ISO is it doesn't care what the outcome is. You can go ahead and continue to kill people on the work site, and you'll still get your accreditation for ISO as long as you can demonstrate that you have the policies, procedures, systems, and controls in place. Sustainability assurance includes impact, and it's in fact the cornerstone of why we produce sustainability reports and why we do assurance. So the big question is, who cares? So what? In today's world, in 2025, the people who are concerned about sustainability reporting, being verified, being assured, are people like investors. So particularly the investors that have some sort of social and or environmental agenda. So green funds or carbon funds or development funds. The investors, like in one of my clients is a Nigerian venture capital company. And what they do is they buy businesses and they manage the businesses for 10 years and then they sell them. And their objective is to take the business from today and make it much more valuable so that 10 years from now, when they sell it, they're going to make a massive profit. But the money they get is from things like the IFC, International Finance Corporation. They get it from sovereign wealth funds. So whether it's the Danish Sovereign Wealth Fund or the Singaporean Sovereign Wealth Fund, and these investors, these providers of capital, say, go ahead and use our money, but you have to impact. And in the case of the company in Nigeria, you must impact education. So you must have a positive impact on education. You must have a positive impact on employment. You must have a positive impact on carbon reduction. You must have a positive impact on waste reduction. And you must have a positive impact on small business development, or what we call enterprise development. And so the company is obligated on an annual basis to provide these providers of capital this information. And ultimately, they must ask the question, do we only give this to the people who are asking for it? Or do we go one step further and we put this into the public domain? So do we actually publish a sustainability report and put it on our websites for everybody to see? And do we actually prove or use assurance as evidence to prove that the information contained within the report is fair and factual? We also have things like sustainability-linked loans. So some of the banks in South Africa, they will say, we will loan you money at a discounted interest rate if you can meet certain requirements. Again, most people are focused on carbon. We get something what we call carbon tunnel syndrome, where we only look at carbon. We're not worried about water. We're not worried about waste. We're not worried about safety. But these sustainability-linked loans will look primarily at carbon, but also things like transformation in the workplace, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They'll look at health and safety. They'll look at a number of different elements. And the company, as a recipient of this loan, you are now obligated on an annual basis to provide this information to your bank. And if you don't meet the requirements, they put your interest rate back up to where it would normally be. Because the banks themselves make commitments toward things like net zero. And banks, their direct impact on carbon isn't the electricity that they use. It's not the fuel that they use. It's the projects that they provide funding to. And so the most material carbon emissions are not the emissions that they directly generate. It's the emissions that are indirectly generated through the money that they provide to the recipient of the loan. Who else uses this? Employees. Okay, Sarath, I know we're coming up on time here. Is that your point? Okay. And so employees use these reports. Government uses these reports. As I say, providers of capital use these reports. NGOs use these reports. Unions use these reports. There are many, many stakeholders that now expect companies to not only produce a sustainability report, but to get it assured. And so I'm going to leave you with this. Sarath or Virendra, can you tell me how many companies in India are currently producing reports and getting them assured? And specifically by Accountability's AA1000.
So in the last 5 years, like Virendra, can you share these slides? There are around 220 reports got assured by accountability standards. Apart from that, India regulator SEBI is mandated and to get the assurance from last year back. So this year, mandatorily 250 companies supposed to get assured. So this slide shows here, these are all the brands: Adani, CRISIL, Mahindra, GAIL, JSW, Alcom. They use this particular standard, AA1000, to get assured their sustainability report. So this is what used. Also, Virendra, can you go back to the previous slide? So one question asked about the material. The next one. Yeah. So the standard, all three standards which I wanted to show. So this is the three standards like which Michael already elaborated on the accountability principles, middle one. Also, he talked about assurance standard. Also, he touched base slightly about SCS. These three standards is accessible in accountability website, which is free of cost. You can go to the website. You can download that particular standards and you can go through and read it. It's simple, readable, and which will give the overview of what is this standard talks about. Also, if you want to get certified as a sustainability assurance practitioner, accountability has a provisions. There are 3 levels is there, Virendra. So if you see in this particular slide, the first one is called associate level, second one is the practitioner level, and third one is the lead level. There are 2 routes are there. One is the training route and another one is the experience route. If you attend a 3 days training, you will become an associate CSAP. So here in this particular meeting, myself and Virendra has attended. So we are in that particular level, associate level, and our name also gets listed in the accountability website. So for example, like my name, if you go and check in the accountability website, it will show like I got trained and certified in the associate level. And if you want your name to get associated, this is like one of the way to attend that 3 days training. And so there are like many people now, as the SEBI is mandated this particular part, many people are coming. It's not only for the assurance people and anyone involved in the sustainability. If you are working in listed companies, if you are implementing it, you will also get like a lot of insights from Michael. So he makes us do the workshop, like he conducts like to do an exercise where actually creating a identifying the stakeholders and how we are doing the materiality assessments, how we actually create engagement assurance. So he makes us like to do that particular job. So in India, we are bringing this particular training in Delhi and Mumbai. So we are conducting one training is scheduled in Delhi, which is like Delhi 23rd, 24th, 25th July and Radisson Blue. Michael is specially flying from South Africa to India to do this. Also, one more training which we are planning in Mumbai, which is going to happen July 29, 30, 31st at Novotel International Airport. And if anybody is interested, our people will share that links here. You can register. You can get into touch with us. Also, like if you have any questions, you can unmute and ask Michael. And we have like we will be here. Like we know that like we scheduled till 4 o'clock. But if you have questions, we will be we can spare like another 10-15 minutes time. He can answer like all the questions you are looking into. Also, we are planning to conduct like one more webinar, which is scheduled on July 3rd. And my team also sharing that links in the chat box. You can take it from there. And yeah, Shruti.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible, please.
Yeah, hi, good evening to everyone. Actually, I wanted to ask, my question was to all of you. If like once we get accredited from accountability, like once we are the ESG practitioner, so is it like limited to Indian clients and projects only, or like we can do assurance of international projects also?
So, Michael, all questions for you only.
Yeah. So I have done assurance in 22 different countries. So even though I'm based in South Africa, my work takes me all over the world. So in the past year, I've done work in Equatorial Guinea, or in the past, say, 18 months, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, Brazil, Canada, Madagascar, etc. I'm like on an average year, I'm in between 7 and 9 countries. The most important thing to remember is that when you think of that slide that that Sarath was sharing earlier about the 200 plus companies that are already getting assurance, in order for you to be an assurance provider, in order for you to be to use the accountability standard completely, you must get the training done. You become an associate level CSAP. Accountability currently only requires you to be an associate. So as soon as you do that 3-day training and submit your case study exam, then I will give you a certificate of completion, which then automatically gets forwarded to accountability, which they use to automatically register you on their website. And so then you actually get the certificate that you can then use as a sustainability assurance provider. So one thing important to know, and I don't know the cost of the course, but I can tell you this, that in whatever you pay for the course, it includes the registration fee for the first year. So
like
you
it
literally
is renewable. It
Sorry?
is like we have to. Is it like the certification has to be renewed after certain years, or it is like once and for permanent? Like once we get the.
Yeah. So right now it's on an annual basis, but I'm constantly arguing with accountability that it should not be that way. And so we're going through a process of review right now on particularly on one of the standards, the SES, Stakeholder Engagement Standard. But we're also looking at the total certification process and how often you have to be updated. So right now it's on an annual basis, but we're looking to shift that to a minimum of 3 years. And then when you get to a lead, so I am one of, I think, 14 leads in the world. When you get to a lead, it's going to be every 5 years. Because when you get to my level, one of the things that you have to remember is that there is inherent expectation that you then give back to the field and train other people.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, so the training that's going to be conducted in India, it is in person. It's what we refer to
Okay.
as facilitated online. You still have to do the online tests, but those tests are fairly easy. But what you get that you would not get in an online course is you get 3 very full days of very interactive training and very specific exercises.
Okay. Okay. All right. And just one more question I had. Actually, if I want to apply, so I can do it as an on individual basis, or my organization has to, it has to be done by on organization level.
In order for an organization to be an assurance provider and listed on Accountability's website, you have to have at least one practitioner, so one ACSAP, associate level CSAP. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
So the accreditation of the CSAP goes with you. So it becomes mobile. You take it to wherever you go. If you change jobs or you do like me, you start your own small business, your accreditation sticks with you. But the certification for the assurance provider, the company, can only stay with the company if they maintain at least having one ACSAP.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it is better to go on on organization basis, right? I just want your suggestion on this. If one has to go on an individual level, so what is the fees and what is the costing? If you can give me an idea.
The costing is exactly the same. So to be a CSAP, it's £65, 65 UK
All
pounds.
right.
Which, just bear in mind, I am trying to get them to decrease this because
Okay.
I am a Canadian, but I've been living in Africa for 26 years. And one of my
Okay.
massive complaints with accountability is that they do not have emerging market pricing.
All right. Okay.
So when I conduct training, I have a price for everybody, but then I massively discount it for people in developing countries. I have a lesser developed country discount. So I'm trying to get
Okay.
accountability to do the same thing.
All right. Okay. And what will be the cost of the 3-day training at Delhi and Mumbai, which is in India, in
Yeah.
Delhi and Mumbai both?
Virender, can you share this slide? So the full price is like a 1.5 lakhs plus tax. We are giving like inaugural discounts of 30%. And also now the early bird discount 5% is there. So he will share the screen. You will see that what is that amount after discounts.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And that covers everything, including the licensing, the registration with accountability. It includes, I believe you're even providing meals, aren't you?
Yeah. It includes lunch and break teas and it's like a slight breakfast, not it's not like full breakfast, some snacks, something like that. And
Okay.
so if you are outside from these places, you need to manage your hotel stay, which is not included.
Yeah. Actually, I am based in Indore currently, and we are I'm working in carbon market already for almost 4 years now. But we are looking to expand in ESG domain also. So just for that purpose, I attended this training and wanted some insights on this.
Yeah. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anyone?
I keep expecting Pranay to ask a question.
Yeah. So,
Very
so
interesting.
thank you. Yeah, please.
So I have one question. What is the basic qualification and experience required for attending and practicing this assurance program?
0. So at the moment, we have another problem that I'm trying to sort out, which is that anybody can take the course. So if you are a high school graduate and you want to take the course, you can take the course. Once you get the certificate, so if you meet the requirements, the academic requirements, you become automatically an ACSAP. Where the experience comes in is in increasing from one level to the next. So historically, and this is prior to last year, prior to this year, in order to provide assurance, you had to have at least one lead. And in order to become a lead, you had to take the CSAP training and then submit experience. And so the experience can be actually conducting assurance. It could be writing sustainability reports. It could be implementing sustainability, leading to a sustainability report within a company. There's various types of experience that you can include. Now, that said, one of the things in my experience is that some of the best assurance providers are people who have actually been working in companies on things like occupational health, safety, and environment, or safety, health, environment individuals, SHE coordinators, SHE managers. So, and in most cases, you don't need a university degree to become a SHE manager. You just need to have the experience. And again, in my personal experience, one of the things that I bring to the table is the fact that I'm actually a machinist. I'm a fitter turner. I haven't actually worked in that field for decades now, but I actually was trained as a machine operator, a CNC lathe and mill hand. And so I worked on the factory floor for several years. I also, I got into a car accident. My back was badly damaged, and so I couldn't do any heavy lifting. And so then I worked in retail, and I got to the point of being a manager for Sony of Canada. So I was the manager of one of Sony's largest stores in Canada. And so I bring to assurance the years of experience that I had built up on a manufacturing floor and in retail. And so what I'm saying about this is that ultimately you'll be able to apply only if you have a degree or a significant diploma or a sufficient diploma, or if you have experience.
Yeah.
Michael
Thank you, Mr.
Pranay
Anand.
Jaiswal.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Michael Pranay Jaiswal. So, Michael, I read somewhere that there is some also standard for sustainability globally called an EcoVadis certification. So, what is it, and how is this AA1000 different from EcoVadis certification? If you could help me understand better.
So EcoVadis has their own standard of what you need to do as a company in order to be quote unquote sustainable. So they have very specific things. You have to have this policy, you have to have that policy, you have to do this, you have to do that. And if you tick all their boxes, then you get the certificate, this EcoVadis certificate. It's similar to the Rainforest Alliance. And I can tell you that one of my clients is a coffee grower in Uganda, and they spent a lot of money getting a certification from the Rainforest Alliance, and it was a hell of a lot of work. All these things that they had to do, all these hoops they had to jump through, they had to get things tested, like, actual quality of their water tested, quality of their coffee tested, et cetera, over and above what would normally be expected within the company. When you're applying a standard like the AA1000 or even the ISA E3000, what you're testing that the information that is provided in the public domain is fair and factual. And so it's not like a dolphin-friendly tuna. So there's an organization that will certify dolphin-friendly tuna, and it's basically, if you pay them enough money, you can actually get the dolphin-free or the dolphin-friendly tuna stamp. And there's a big documentary that was done about this. And so EcoVadis is one of these very specific, one of these very unique standards that they say, this is what we expect in order to be sustainable. And if you can tick all our boxes, then you get the certificate.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Naik. Thank you for asking that. Okay. So any other questions? Anyone? Okay. So Michael, thank you for taking your time, and thank you for coming here and sharing your experience. I refreshed my knowledge again. I have again noted notes again. Like I got touched, moved, and inspired by your experience, like how you started, from where you started, why you come, and whatever that you are doing, why you are doing. Thank you for sharing that, and also thank you for giving that like idea about like one indicators, like what is the assurance on particularly that safety part and giving the calculations and also the principles and also like what is the part like assurance needs to cover. So you have given a broad aspects and also you clarified the questions. I think Sunil is asking something. Yeah, Mr. Sunil.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sunil Koda this side. I just need to understand because I'm also working in the same domain as EcoVadis and the TFS parts as well. So far, the knowledge which I have, EcoVadis do provide the rating on the scale of 0 to 100, with grade as a metal, platinum, and gold, silver, bronze. But whether they issue the certificate, because the knowledge which I have, actually they are not issuing any certificate as such. They do release the report. Report do talks about the score part. And based upon these scores, categorization is done like platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. But I'm little bit not sure about the certificate.
So excuse me for the terminology. You're right. They don't provide a certificate. They provide a report, which gives you this actual sustainability score.
Correct.
So it's basically a certificate that you can take the summary page, you can put it on your website, you can put the whole report on your website, and you can say we've been reviewed by EcoVadis. It's similar to things like SAM, like the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, or in the UK the what is the UK one? Escaping my mind right now, but there's all these indices where they look at sustainability, and they're useful in a way, but in my experience, the problem with them is they try and paint everybody with the same brush, and it doesn't always fit. Okay. And so the score that you have, and I'm sure if you've been doing this for a while, you'll know that companies are often disappointed with the score that they get, because they're not ticking the boxes that is expected, even though there's really no reason why you would want to tick that box.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunilji. So just to put it in simple, like in India, listed companies supposed to provide a BRSR assurance. They release the report. That report needs to be verified. So that can be verified by the sustainability assurance standards like AA1000, ISA 3000, ISO 17029. That can't be done by EcoVadis. Just to keep simple layman part. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So we crossed that time limit. We scheduled for 4 and it's 4:13, and it's good to see that like many of them still here. And once again, thank you, Michael. Thank you for taking time and being elaborative and your own style, giving the background with your real examples and experience. It was like a eye opener, and also it's like very inspiring to hear you like what that you have shared. Thank you for putting it from your heart, and looking forward to see you in India and meet you and some of you from this webinar also. Like I am hoping to see you in the in-person training. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. In the meantime, I just want to point out that we have another webinar scheduled, and that one's going to be more focused on specifically how the assurance gets done. So how to actually implement the process of assurance.
So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We will now closing this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.